Velkommen alle sammen, og veldig god 17. mai, the Norwegian Independence Day, when Grunnloven was signed, the constitution basically declaring that Norway was to be an independent kingdom in attempt to avoid being seceded to Sweden after Denmark's defeat in the Napoleon Wars. But little do most people know, this was not the first time 200 years ago that Norway achieved its independence. In this video we are speaking about 5, or arguably 6 times during the Viking Age that Norway achieved independence from foreign rule or independence from tyrannical domestic kings. And I hope this inspires people what their ancestors fought for, and I hope it inspires us to fight for our freedom in the years to come. But first, celebrating the day, our feasting horns are now for sale on Amazon. You won't find these at a better price anywhere else. They're the top quality horns on the market, and for the next week only, these will be 40% off, so link will be below in the description if you like a little booze celebrating for the next week. So of course, the country of Norway and its exact borders were not there during the Viking Age more than 1,000 years ago, but it was an area unified by people under the Norwegian identity. The region was called Norway, and it was a nation of small tribes. That is until King Harald Fairhair came and unified them all for the first time. He wasn't king of all Norway like some think. He was what's called the Fjordkonungur, basically ruling over the largest population areas, but there were still some areas in the north, in Nordland or up in the high mountains, that no king was able to rule over officially until long after the Viking Age, but Harald was technically ruling over most of Norway. He was a bit of an unfair king though, taxing people and seizing their land, but most people thought he was alright. This changed after he died and his son took over the throne, Erik Bloodaxe. He won some good battles, but he was a violent and cruel king that very few people liked. He also taxed people and stole their land and rigged unjust legal cases. He was Norway's first tyrannical ruler as a nation. The people had had enough of it, and when his brother Håkon the Good returned from England where he was raised, the people accepted Håkon's rule and banished Erik Bloodaxe to be a king of Northumbria, actually. This was Norway's real first liberation from tyranny. Håkon fought off the sons of Erik Bloodaxe for many years, and he was the greatest king our country has ever seen. That is Håkon Haraldsson, Håkon the Good. He eventually died at the Battle of Fitjar, and shortly after that, a son of Erik Bloodaxe took over Norway, and his name was Harald Gråklakk. He was also a cruel leader, taking and seizing land and killing anyone who opposed him. He killed chieftains Sigurd Håkonsson, Tryggve Olafsson, and Gudrid Björnsson. It was chieftain Sigurd's son, the famous Jarl Håkon, that ended up killing Harald Greycloak at the Battle of Limfjord, and Norway was liberated once again at this time, and this is all, by the way, a little bit before the year 1000. However, Norway had no king, and there was no clear candidate to take over the throne of the whole country. So what the Norwegians did was they accepted the rule of the Danish king Harald Bluetooth. That was just fine though. The Norwegians liked Harald Bluetooth and he was a good king. That was until he submitted to the Holy Roman Emperor, the Saxon Otto. Harald Bluetooth after that was forced to convert to Christianity, and he demanded that all of Denmark followed him and converted and gave up their pagan religion. The Norwegians did not have any of that though. We used to be a people who didn't like to be told what to believe and how to live our lives. So like any nation that has a pair of balls, Norway said F you to Denmark, as they did, and they had Jarl Håkon as their unofficial leader. And Håkon was just too strong for the Danes and Harald Bluetooth to do anything about it, even though they did try to invade and take the power back over Norway many times. So Norway was free again after this point, thanks to Jarl Håkon. That was until a few years later, when the horrible king came back to Norway, Olaf Tryggvason. He was born in the east, but he was the son of a smaller, petty Norwegian king. He returned back to Norway, promising a better life and a kingdom for his people at first, But after he became king and gained power, he showed his true colors, torturing and killing anyone who did not convert to Christianity. Olav was the most cruel and horrible Norwegian king that ever lived, and the people were living under tyranny once again. This was only for about 5 years though, until the Battle of Svolden, right around the year 1000, when the pagan Norwegians rose up and slaughtered Olav's forces at sea, and Norway was free again. They had a short period where they were ruled by the Danish king Svein Forkbeard. He was a great king, and he even ruled over all of England for a few months before he mysteriously died, but Norway was again left without a king for a short while. That is until Olaf Haraldsson came into the picture, another son of a regional king in Norway who took power with promises to be a good king and give fairness to the people and prosperity. But again, this second King Olaf came in, and he was a cruel Christian, slightly less evil than Olaf Tryggvason about 15 years before him. But Olaf II still killed anyone who didn't want to convert to Christianity and give up their native pagan faith. So once again, the year 1015, Norway was under tyrannical rule. This was until the Battle of Stiklestad in the year 1030, when the great people of Norway, who valued freedom of religion, came together and slayed the evil King Olaf. Funny enough, these people were the farmers. They were referred to as the farmers, bondemen. The farmers always seem to be the last line of defense for freedom of a nation when the rest of the country is too brainwashed or cowardly to stand up and do anything about it. Anyway, after Olav the Saint was killed, he came legendary King Harald Hardrada, who was a Christian, but he was a relatively fair king who let people live how they wanted for the most part, and Norway was free and peaceful for quite some time after that. That is until Borgerkrigstiden, the civil war that lasted from the 1130s to the 1240s, more than 100 years. This was the time of the legendary Birkebeinerne, who fought over 100 years for independence. But that is a story for another day, because that was after the official Viking Age, so we'll do another video on that. You get my point. This was a time in history where humans valued their freedom, and they were willing to die for it, and the freedom and peace of their nation. So I hope you can all see some of the parallels to today. Even if you can't, I hope we can all toast to our brave ancestors and their ability to unite and fight for a common good. Så skål for Norge, god 17. mai, kos dere, og vi ses neste gang.